Hello beautiful people and welcome to a tips and tricks video on the new Abyss. This Abyss, just in terms of DPS check, is a lot easier than the last one, and it has a lot less annoying stalling, but it has very specific enemy mechanics that can be annoying to deal with. Just looking at the numbers on the HP, last Abyss was 6 mil in the first chamber, 8.6 in the second, 7.5 in the last one. This Abyss, 7.5 in the first one, then 6 mil on both of the other two. But the thing is, this 7.5 isn't actually real, because there's actually two enemies here that deal damage to themselves based on their current HP with one of their mechanics. The Eremite Stone Enchanter, at least when it comes to the Abyss version, spawns and immediately summons the crocodile. While the crocodile is alive, it has pretty high resistances, but when you kill the crocodile, it significantly reduces its resistances, but also does a lot of damage to him. And as long as you have any sort of AoE, killing the crocodile is really easy. The lava dragon statue actually has a very similar thing, but I believe it takes 15% of its current HP twice. So we pay attention to the damage it takes. 650k, 540k. But yeah, so the lava dragon statue is a new enemy. First time we have it in Abyss, and it has a very, very important mechanic. If you don't use this mechanic, you will not do any damage to him. This guy has 150% resistance to every element by default. But as you can see, when we deal pyro damage, his bar fills up. Once his bar has filled up once, he goes into his second state. In his second state, he still has the same resistance to pyro damage, but for every other element, his resistance goes to 45%. Once you fill up the bar for his second phase to half, he takes 15% of his current HP as true damage, and it happens again when you fill it up completely. So he's about to do it right now. 384k, that's 15% of his current HP. And he's about to take it again, 299k. Now, he's downed, right? This is his third phase. First phase, high resistances, nothing you can do, just hit it with pyro. Second phase, high resistances to everything except pyro, and it takes damage at 50% and when you fill it up. And third phase, normal resistances, you can do a proper rotation here. And he stays in this phase for about 15 seconds. Trying to kill this boss without pyro is completely stupid. Usually, enemies with relatively high resistances, you can kind of brute force, right? Let's say a Neuvillette team, whether you're doing the Neuvillette Escoffier stuff that is now Neuvillette's best team, or Shilone and Kazuha, you get about 75 shred. With Shilone and Kazuha, it's 76. With Escoffier Sidlali, it's 75. For now, let's just say 75. If the enemy starts with 10% resistances, post-shred, it's going to be at minus 65, and your resistance multiplier effectively means that when enemies have 10% resistance, you do 10% less damage. When enemies have minus 65% resistance, you do 32.5% more damage. If you look at last Abyss, we had on the second half enemies with 50% hydro resistance, and generally the upper end of hydro resistance for Swanee, for example, is 70%. At 70%, without shred, your damage is divided by 3 and you're kind of cooked. With shred though, you're still doing about 3/4 of the damage you would do on an enemy that doesn't have high resistances. It is worse than enemies that don't have resistances, but it's not completely cooked. The thing is, this guy has 150, and 150 is a very large number. If the enemies start at 150% resistances and you shred them by 75, they still have 75 resistance, which means that you do 1/4 of the damage that you would do against a 0-res enemy, or less than 1/5 of the damage that you would do, including your shred against a normal resistance enemy. That means you need more than 5 times the DPS to clear in the same amount of time. I need you guys to understand that the difference between Ayato and Maoika is like generally less than 2 times. 5 times is insane. 5 times is often bigger than a carry at free-to-play levels versus a carry at Leviathan C6R5 levels. Do not try to kill this boss without pyro. The question then becomes, how exactly do you want to go about it? Do you want to play a team that has a lot of pyro and therefore gets to the second down quickly, or a team that has an okay amount of pyro but also non-pyro damage? The thing is, this lava dragon loser also gets, like, its progress bar significantly reduced by hydro and cryo damage. And I really do mean significantly. Look at the progress bar here. Boop, boop, boop. It's gone. Progress bar doesn't get reduced during the first phase, but during the second phase, if you hit it with hydro or cryo, it will last, man. That means that you pretty much can't play any hydro or cryo characters, except Mualani, because Mualani is the only pyro or hydro character that you could consider playing in these teams that has application slow enough that she doesn't completely ruin your progress. Obviously, it depends on the specific team you're doing, but as you can see here, we're not actually applying quite enough to completely destroy the progress bar. As a general rule, I would recommend some sort of monopyro team as the most safe bet for this, but you'll also be able to get through with a lot of other options. The team that has the best matchup here is Kinich, obviously. The Leyline Disorder gives Dendro skill damage, which, by the way, Dendro is pretty good here because Dendro characters in burning teams are characters that hit enemies with pyro through the burning, therefore fill out the bar pretty quickly, while also doing a damage that is not pyro, so they can actually damage the dragon statue during the second phase. You don't have to only do damage during the third phase. But yeah, so monopyro teams, burning teams, Chevaleur's teams are generally gonna be the better ones. But you can get through with Mualani teams and like burning load stuff, I guess. Technically, another thing you can do is just go through the first two phases as quickly as possible and then use cryo or hydro or pyro character. Like, for example, you can do a premium Maoika team and just get through with just Bennett and Maoika the first two phases and then nuke the Lava Dragon while it's down. And if your first side team is strong enough, it actually is enough to beat stuff in time, but it is slower. So that's something to keep in mind. Chamber 2, PMA is not new, and the first two waves are incredibly squishy. So it's mainly about the Tenebrous Mimeses. The mini Papillas are incredibly squishy, right? 800k HP. That's like one Maoika burst without even the spin. But they have a pretty big Void Shield. As a reminder, Void Shields are kind of weird. They are not the same thing as Elemental Shields. Void Shields are not something you break through Elemental application. They're something you break through Elemental hits. In other words, stuff that has ICD but hits fast, that is usually bad against Elemental Shields, might not be bad against Void Shields. On top of that, Night Soul aligned damage, which is generally most of the sources of damage from Natlan characters, are 3 times as effective against Void Shields, so each hit counts as 3. The best ways to deal with these is to either use characters that hit really fast or characters from Natlan, or both. Because you're already somewhat gated in terms of your team building from the Lava Dragon statue, that's generally what you should keep in mind when thinking about what to use against the Papilla and the mini Papillas. You want a team that has some form of pyro, but also a lot of elemental hits in general. Because of that, Xiangling is incredibly good against the Lava Dragon statue because she's the fastest all-field pyro applicator in the game by far. Characters like Kazuha that have pretty decent all-field pyro application through his burst. Characters like Emily that don't have the best pyro application, but burning hits so much that despite its low application, it's still pretty good at breaking the shield. These are the sort of characters you want to use. And what's really nice is that a lot of these characters also happen to be pretty good here. Another one I haven't mentioned yet is Chevaleur's. Chevaleur's burst hits a lot and applies a pretty good amount of pyro too. And if you have her constellations, so does her first skill. Chevaleur's is actually one of the best characters at front-loading hits for both the Lava Dragon statue and the Void Shields. Yeah, and finally for the Papilla, unlike the mini Papillas, you need needs to break its shield in a certain amount of time, otherwise you lose the opportunity. And if you don't break its shield in time, it gets really high resistances and it does a wipe attack. The wipe attack is not the end of the world because you can iframe it or you can go outside of its range, but the fact that it keeps really high resistances is a problem. A few things that are useful to know about this: burning with like Cole or some shit like that is almost enough to break the shield by itself, so as long as you have pretty much any elemental applicator on field at the same time as the burning, you should be fine. Fischl at C6 is really good at helping your on-fielders. Lonyan and Chevreuse are very good at front-loading a lot of hits on void shields. Maoika can break the whole shield by herself with a specific attack combo that I'll be showing you. And most of the Natlan characters also trivialize this shield, but Natlan characters aren't necessary for it. And then Rune Greater, not much to say. And way up, keep in mind, if you freeze it, you get to avoid its energy drain mechanic, but if you don't, make sure that you have cast whatever burst is necessary for your rotation before it steals your energy. Should we try to do an actual proper rotation? Oh, that won't work, they're dead. Anyways, so Chevreuse, just her burst is like over a third of the bar by itself. And then her skill, with the constellation that adds hits to your skill, is almost another third by itself. I don't think you deserve to. You're a Genshin player. Goose on the loose! Didn't have the energy. That's fine. Get to work. Adapt to frosting. Time to shine. Gonna go excellent. No goose, no loose. Okay, against Void Shields, right, you can see the Void Shield right below the HP bar. And the shield does get hit a decent amount by elemental attacks, but a lot more by nice aligned damage. And the combo you want to do is 2 normal attacks into a dash. Then 2 normal attacks into a dash, then 1 into a dash. Because it's not about the damage, it's just about the amount of hits you do. And this is the Maoika combo that gets hits out the fastest. We're gonna try to make sure we finish with our burst up on Chevreuse. which is looking like I'm gonna be a little annoying. Against the Papilla, like I said, there is a combo for Mawika to be able to do it by herself. And it's just use your burst, then 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. And just like that, she can do it by herself. So as long as you have Mawika on your team, you don't have to worry about anything else when it comes to the Void Shields, or at least the Papilla. But like I said, Mawika is not the only one, and if you're using characters that can do it by themselves, characters like Chevreuse will help you a decent amount because of the just sheer amount of front-loaded hits she has. As you can see with Chevreuse, we get a good amount just at the start like that. Because Race is an Outland character, she has a decent amount of effectiveness at breaking this. But the editor can take clips on the Arlecchino clear I did earlier to show that the Outland characters aren't necessary. Last thing I want to say, for the first half of the first chamber, the Fatui agents are very tanky. I think it's the first time we have Fatui agents logo legends since they started giving us 375 HP multiplier. So a lot of people don't realize just how goddamn tanky these guys are. The last time we had them, they were at 1.4 mil HP, now they're at 2.1. Because there's two of them, it's really important to try to keep them group if you have any form of AoE. And if you don't have freeze, that can be annoying, especially if you have a lot of stagger. So, with a lot of stagger, you knock them away from each other, but the thing is, when you keep them staggered, you won't have a way to regroup them. Because if you hit them from afar, they actually teleport to you every once in a while. There we go. If you hit them from afar every once in a while, they'll teleport to you. Which means if you don't stagger them, it's really easy to keep them grouped up, because they'll just end up regrouping themselves by default. But if you stagger them with overload teams or stuff like that, you'll have to kill them one at a time, and because they have a pretty high amount of HP, having to kill two of them, or having to kill them twice effectively instead of only once, is a pretty big deal. So try to keep that in mind when it comes to your team building, and that's pretty much it for the, day one tips and tricks. As usual, you can make sure you stay tuned for the meta roundup coming in the next few days, and yeah, hope you enjoyed, hope you learned a thing or two. I will see you guys at the next one. Bye, YouTube.